Hello and welcome to the Book Bunch. My name is Sam. It is so great to have you guys here for another video. Today we're going to go through some recent fantasy reads that I have for you guys, and all of these are Christian friendly or clean. They're not necessarily Christian fiction or Christian fantasy, but I still think they are pretty decent to get your hands on. So we're going to get right into the video. The first book I have to talk about is a middle grade. This is called The Hippo at the End of the Hall. This is so charming. I really did enjoy it. It has very similar vibes to Grandest Bookshop in the World. So if you did pick that up and give that one a read, I definitely recommend you pick this one up as well. This follows a young boy named Ben, and he is the son of a single mum who is a little bit different, I guess you could say, in regards to he has a very strong sense of like curiosity and this need to explore, and he gets this invitation dropped off at his front door with the milk delivery, which is very out of the norm, and it is an invitation to go to the G Museum. And he's never heard of this museum before. His mum won't really tell him much about it, and she doesn't really want him to go either because it seems like she is kind of protecting him or hiding something from him, and he doesn't really think too much of it because he just thinks that his mum's kind of a little bit overbearing maybe in the way that she wants to protect him. And so he decides that he's going to go and see what this museum is all about. And yeah, he goes off on this adventure, finds the museum, and all of this stuff starts happening. The museum is under threat, his home is under threat by these developers, and all of this stuff going on that is very true to, I feel like, the world in regards to like sometimes there are these very rich, powerful people who just want to make more money and they don't really care about the little things like the shop, like independent shop owners and different things that they bring to the community. And he wants to try and save this museum and try and save his home, and all of this stuff starts happening. There is a bunch of animals that come alive and they kind of help him out because he can hear what they say, but only he can really hear their voice. And it's super, super interesting. I don't love the cover. I definitely think that could have been done a little bit nicer. But apart from that, this is actually probably, in regards to middle grade, a 5 out of 5 kind of read. I enjoyed it, even though I'm obviously not the intended target, so I can't necessarily say whether someone younger than I would enjoy it as much as I did, but I really think that they would. So I definitely think if you have any younger readers in your family that you should definitely pick it up. It was completely clean, it was quite good, and I just want to read the blurb to you because if anything is going to hook you, it is going to be this blurb. It says, "Come now or come never. The invitation was delivered by bees. It wasn't addressed to anyone at all, but Ben knew it was for him. It would lead him to an old shambolic museum full of strange and bewitching creatures, a peculiar world of hidden mysteries and curious family secrets, and some really quite dangerous magic." So it's super interesting. I definitely recommend this one. I then read a novella called The Girl Who Could See. This is by a Christian author, but this book in particular isn't like necessarily Christian in any way. This follows a girl who her whole life has been branded as someone who needs serious psychiatric help because she can see this young man all the time and talk to him, and he can actually like touch her and help her. For example, like if she is about to trip over or fall over, he can like reach out and grab her and she won't fall, but no one else can see him or hear him. And she finds out through this young man that the world is going to end, that there's this threat that is about to enter the world and kind of take over, and it will annihilate everybody. And he is trying to get her to listen to him because she is at the stage in her life where she is so annoyed by his constant disruptions that she doesn't want to listen to him or acknowledge him, and she's trying to play him off as just a figment of her mind. But then all this stuff happens, and yeah, it was really interesting. I can't elaborate too much more just because it is obviously a novella, so it's very short. So if I go into any more detail than that, it will kind of give away a lot of the story. But I definitely think it was very good. I know some people aren't as into it as I was, but I quite enjoyed it, so I'd probably give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I am interested to see how I go with Kara's other books, because she has written a Christian fiction retelling or reimagining, I guess, of Peter Pan. And I know the second book in that series has recently won the Christie Award, so I'm interested to get my hands on it. I think I might enjoy it, but we'll see how we go, because I didn't mind her writing, so that was kind of cool. But that is The Girl Who Could See. This week I also picked up Howl's Moving Castle in the novel edition, because the Studio Ghibli version, which is quite famous, that probably most of you know about, was actually based off this book, and I thought I would pick it up because I love Howl's Moving Castle. It probably is my favorite Studio Ghibli film, even though every Studio Ghibli film is pretty brilliant. But yeah, Howl's Moving Castle is my preference, especially over Spirited Away. I know most people like Spirited Away, but I'm not in that camp. Anyway, so I picked up the book because I wanted to see how similar it was to the movie and if I would be enchanted by it just as much. And I absolutely was. There is some differences to the movie, so just know that going in. But I don't know, I almost preferred the book version to the movie, which is very odd to me because normally whatever I read or watch first is my preference. So if I watch the movie first, I normally latch onto that rather than the book, and if I read the book first, I normally latch onto the book over the movie, that kind of thing. But this time I actually think I preferred the book over the movie in regards to the actual story. That being said, the movie's reimagining of it is very good, and I love the visuals and it's very beautiful. And I do like the version of the castle better in the movie than I do in the book, but apart from that, the actual characters and the storyline, I prefer Howl's Moving Castle, but the book edition. This is actually a trilogy. I don't know if I'll bother picking up the other two though, because this very much so wraps up in itself. It doesn't end on a cliffhanger or anything like that, so it could be 100% standalone. However, if you have read the other two books, please let me know if it's worth it, because I'm interested, but it's not urgent on my list. So let me know if I should bump it up in the queue. But I definitely recommend Howl's Moving Castle. It is clean and it's all good. It's a little bit magical, but not too much, and I definitely recommend it for all ages. I also picked up this Christian fiction called Speaker of Ma'ila. I think that's how you say it, at least. This book was tough. It's not very long, but it took me quite a while to get through just because it is very heavy on the fantasy in regards to names and places and things like that. It was actually the names and places were so foreign to me that I actually struggled to read it. Not so much in understanding what was going on, I kind of understood that, but my brain processing what I was reading just took a little bit of extra time. They all have very islander type names, I guess you'd say. It's all kind of based in that kind of world, so just be aware of that. If you are more familiar with that kind of thing, it might be a much easier read for you than it was for me, but I did struggle with it. And the story was good, but it didn't blow me away. So I'd probably only give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. That being said, it is personal preference, and if you like Christian fantasy, you might like this because the faith element to it was really interesting take on it, because it's meant to be like obviously kind of like a subtle shout out to God like Narnia and all the rest of it. But I think it was done very well. It's probably my favorite part of the book and why I would give it as high of a rating as I did, because the way he talks about the different religions and races in the world was quite good and quite interesting. And I did like some of the fantasy elements to it, like the people weren't the same color skin as us. They were like blue and copper, and I think the other ones are green, or no, gold. The other ones are gold. But they're like, none of them are like natural skin tones. They're all like very vibrant colors. And I found that super interesting. And that, like, it was just kind of cool. And yeah, I don't know how to explain it very well, but it was difficult to get through. But if you're good with high fantasy or like familiar with Islander type of names like Mailla and that kind of stuff with like different inflections, you might find it easier to read than I did. But because I struggled with that so much, it dragged the whole book down for me. It is a trilogy, so just be aware of that. I'm not going to pick up the rest of it, but again, that's just because I struggled to get through it. The actual story follows this boy who is part of one of the kingdoms, and he is like being trained in this like very military-esque, I don't know the word, but like the kingdom itself is very military based. It's not like other kingdoms where you have like a small military or a decent sized military and then all the rest. It's like pretty much everyone is military, if that makes sense. And they are training him to be this person who can like take life out of things and like their soul, and then he can use that power to do stuff to the world and to other people. And he doesn't like the thought of killing, especially taking human life, and he's obviously in a very tight spot, so he ends up running away. And he runs away because they want to, like, he gets forced, sorry, it's hard to explain. He gets forced to kill a human in front of like the king, and he like can't do it. So he escapes with the person he was meant to kill, who is a foreigner, and they kind of run off together, and he is trying to escape the military that is chasing him down, and he brings his best friend along as well, and they're all being hunted, and so they kind of escape to this foreign land. But they are still being pursued, and so they try and like blend in with that society a little bit, but they are also convicted to go to the third kingdom and warn them, because their kingdom is going to try and attack this third kingdom. And so they are going to leave the kind of safety of the second kingdom and go to the third kingdom and all the rest of it. So that's kind of the story of Speaker of Mailla, but there you go. It was decent, but definitely not my favorite. And finally, I read The Dragon's Promise, which is book 2 in the Six Crimson Cranes duology, or at least that's what I'm going to call it, because I don't know if this duology has a proper name. But yes, I love this series. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. It has been a 5 out of 5 stars all round for me, and these covers are so beautiful. I know they're probably a little bit girly, and like pastel-y and stuff, and I'm not a huge pink person, but the way these covers are just absolutely stunning to me. I think they're beautiful, and I'm very happy to have them in my collection. This series has been such an interesting time for me because it is very heavy on Asian mythology and that kind of thing. And I don't really know much about it, or at least I didn't going into it. And learning all about it was just so much fun and so interesting, and I really did enjoy it. It made for a great fantasy series, that's for sure. I would love to know if you guys have read Elizabeth Lim's other series, which is the, I'm gonna get the name, the Spin the Dawn duology series, whatever that is, because I have heard things about it on BookTube, but I can't remember if they said whether it was clean or not. This is clean, so I do definitely recommend it, but it was so good, and her writing is so beautiful as well. I love the way she writes her worlds. They're really beautiful, and I definitely do like them. The story follows the same main character from the first book, and she decides that she is going to voluntarily go down into the Dragon Kingdom, which is like notorious for being a death sentence for any human being, because the dragons do not like, or at least the Dragon King does not like, humans at all. He thinks they're disgusting and he doesn't like them, so normally they're dead like straight away. But she has a part of the Dragon King's grandson's heart, which is like a pearl, and she's got a chip of the pearl, which allows her to breathe underwater. And it is also like it has a very strong symbolic gesture. And so she is under the protection of the Dragon Prince. And she is kind of tricking the Dragon King into finding out information about the owner of this cursed dragon pearl that she has obtained, and she has made this vow that she's going to return it to the true owner, but the Dragon King wants it for himself, but she doesn't know who the true owner is, so she had kind of agreed that she would go show the Dragon King this pearl. The Dragon King thought he would get it for himself, and she's like, no, I never agreed to that. I just want you to tell me who owns it so I can go return it. And it kind of starts a little bit of a mini war under the water between her and them. But yeah, that's like part of the journey, and then like the rest of the book is about her trying to find the owner of this dragon pearl, and she finds out all of this stuff about her family that she didn't know, and all of these different secrets and stuff that were hidden prior to her going on this adventure. And it's super interesting. It has a really beautiful love story in it as well. It also has a really beautiful display of friendship and self-sacrificial love, even like when they don't necessarily love you back in the same way, which I thought was so beautiful, and it kind of made me feel bad for them. But it was still beautiful nonetheless. It was like a bittersweet situation. But I definitely recommend the series if you are interested in Asian mythology at all, or you want to dip your toes in, or you just want a relatively easy fantasy to read. I definitely recommend this duology. But that is all the books for this week's review. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you have any other fantasy that you want me to read, please let me know in the comments below, and I will definitely check it out, especially if you have any Christian fantasy recommendations. I'm always interested to find out more and get more in my collection. I obviously have quite a few in the pile, but more is always good, especially with Christmas coming up. So yes, let me know in the comments below, and I hope you guys have a great week. Bye!